When our daughter was born a few months ago, we got a lot of presents and cards from our friends and family. And since we already had everything we needed for her, we got a lot of flowers and chocolates, which I was delighted to receive. I also got one present which was a bit different from the others. One of my friends gave me a pot of flowers. Not a bunch of flowers that have already been cut, but ones that are still in their earth that I needed to take care of myself. At first it struck me as a rather strange sort of present. It was pretty and it looked quite cheerful on the windowsill, but I'd just got a new baby to take care of around the clock in addition to the child I had already. So the last thing I needed was another thing to take care of. All the plants I've ever had before died within a few weeks, which was enough to put me off the entire gardening thing. Now my baby is 4 months old and I've had these cheerful yellow flowers for a few months. All the chocolates and bouquets that I were given have already gone without a trace, but the yellow flowers are still on my windowsill, and they now mean much more to me than any of the presents I got. During the heat wave a few weeks ago, my yellow flowers completely withered and all the leaves were dried and brown. I thought the whole plant had died from my neglect, but I started giving it some extra water and pruned off some of the dead leaves, and a few weeks later a few new buds started to grow, and they only just bloomed into new cheerful yellow flowers, and it made me feel really glad. My delight was much more profound than it had been when I'd initially received the flowers, or when I'd got any of the other flowers that were much more magnificent, and I realised that my participation in the growth of the flowers was meaningful in a way that receiving a beautiful bunch of flowers just could never be. The pleasure you get from looking at beautiful flowers has no meaning on its own. For something to be truly meaningful requires participation on your part, and the possibility of a negative outcome. I think that's why I'd get bored very quickly if I went through life getting everything I needed and everything I wanted without having to do anything. If it just fell into my lap, I think I'd get bored of that in a week or even just a few days perhaps. When you ask people if they would like to plug their brain into a simulation and experience a better life than the one they have, they usually say no, they don't want that, even if they can't articulate exactly why. I think people want their life to be real, even if it's difficult or painful. They want their decisions and their actions to matter. We have this idea that the only reason that people do anything is to receive a reward or something that will then grant them some pleasure in some way. But I think that's kind of missing half of the point. It's only half the picture. I mean, it's right on some level, because if you ask people if they'd like to win the lottery and quit their jobs, they usually say that they would like that. But the people who actually do win the lottery often end up worse off than they were to begin with in many ways. And maybe that has more to do with the corrupting effects of money and how it affected their personal relationships. But I think also that having all of your needs dealt with without any input on your part is just not as satisfying as people kind of expect it to be. It seems to me that people would rather be important than happy. And by that I mean they would rather do good deeds than to feel good feels. Of course, it's not as simple as just choosing between one and the other, and the idea of doing things and receiving something good in return, these are tightly bound up and they usually come together as a package, which is ideal. I don't want to give the impression that there's anything wrong with pleasure, even if it is only empty pleasure, only that it's not enough on its own to have a good life. You can't live off just that. But by all means, still do buy flowers for the women in your life if it makes them happy. If everyone starts buying potted plants for each other instead, we're going to fill up our windowsills very quickly. We talk a lot about having meaning or purpose in our lives, that it sort of makes it worth living and mitigates the struggle of being alive. But I do wonder if the English language isn't coming up a little bit short on that front. It kind of sounds as if there's one ultimate goal that you're trying to work towards, and if you finish that then you just have nothing to do. But I think there's a kind of continuous process of fulfilling very small tasks and maybe working towards some short-term goals and some long-term goals all at once. I'm curious if there are people watching this video who speak another language, if there might be a word in, I don't know, in any other language that is kind of equivalent to what we would call meaning or purpose in terms of what it means to have a fulfilling life. Something that encompasses not just the work that you do for your family and the joy you get from your career, but also little things like watering your plants every day. Or if you have anything else that you'd like to tell me relating to this video, or just in general, just let me know what's going on with you. I always like to read your comments, even if I don't get a chance to reply to all of them. The Women's Hour live stream has moved officially to my channel. So if you'd like to watch Women's Hour, it's now going to be on this channel, that is Poe the Person, on Fridays at 9 p.m, starting this Friday. So if you'd like to come along and say hello, please do pop into that live or catch up with it after the fact. I'm going to have my friends with me. We're going to be having a chat. This week we're going to be discussing femininity and some of the ways that feminism and modern thinking in general have dissolved our conception of what it means to be a successful woman, or to be a good woman who leads a good life. Look forward to seeing you there, and have a great day. Thank you very much for watching.